The day has finally arrived. The road to the Stanley Cup begins for the Dallas Stars and Vegas Golden Knights. Welcome to the official Stars vs. Knights series preview.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, everybody, and welcome to today's special crossover edition of Locked On Stars and Vegas Golden Knights. First things first, please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. My name is Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan. Over the weekend, I was able to catch up with Chris Golick of Locked On Vegas Golden Knights, and we had a ball discussing this series between the Dallas Stars and Vegas Golden Knights. So many big storylines between these two clubs. It's a Western Conference Finals rematch from a year ago, and we had a ton of stuff to dive into on today's episode. We talk about some of those big storylines. I even told Chris my top 10 players in this series, got his thoughts on my rankings. We also dropped our official predictions. So much great stuff in today's episode, getting you ready for game one tonight. Puck drop is scheduled for 8:30 Central Standard Time, which will probably be more like 9 o'clock, because that's the way it goes here in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But just before we jump into this conversation, want to thank everybody for all the wonderful support recently. Everybody has been fantastic, and very, very happy to be able to catch up with Chris of Locked On VGK to put this episode together and get you ready for what I think is going to be a heck of a series. I think the NHL hit the jackpot, no pun intended, with the Dallas Stars and Vegas Golden Knights facing off against each other in the first round. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Without further ado, here's your official Stars vs. Knights series preview. Welcome into the official 2024 Dallas Stars versus Vegas Golden Knights playoff preview. Alongside Chris Golick, I'm Joey Erickson. It's a pleasure to be with everyone. And well, Chris, the Dallas Stars and Vegas Golden Knights meet again. I would love to hear, before we jump into some of the bigger storylines here between both of these teams, just your initial and generic thoughts on Stars versus Vegas Golden Knights once again.
I would have rather seen the Edmonton Oilers. I think we'll start the bidding there. I'm very high, obviously, on the coaching staff, Pete DeBoer. I think the Dallas Stars have a good defense. I think Jake Ottinger is a great goaltender. And I think the Stars' leadership, although I'm sure we'll hit Jamie Benn at some point, I think the Stars' leadership is a bit better than the Edmonton Oilers. So I think the Golden Knights might have made a bed that they just necessarily don't want to sleep in by losing Thursday night to the Anaheim Ducks.
Yeah, the finale to the regular season was quite interesting because you had both the Kings and Knights look like they weren't very interested in the game they were in at the time.
They were trying to tank, I'll say it. It was the tankathon.
Exactly. And I understand you may have to take on the best player in the world, but maybe that's what happens when you have the best player in the world. You want to take on a team that has 8 20-goal scorers, and that's just the way it goes sometimes. So we'll jump into some of the bigger storylines here between the Stars in Vegas before game one. And for Dallas, I think there's a lot of intriguing storylines. Of course, there is a revenge factor to this one for the Stars. Of course, the team that knocked them out last year. Obviously, Pete DeBoer going up against his former club once again. And I thought Pete DeBoer last year pretty much outcoached any other opponent in the first 2 rounds besides Vegas. And Butch Cassidy certainly got him there in the Western Conference Final. I think the biggest storyline, just because there is a lot of things going right for the Stars, they are relatively healthy. So it's hard to kind of nitpick some of their weaknesses, but I'm really intrigued about how they're going to deploy their defensive pairings, because essentially over the last week or so, they've been trotting out a 5-man decor because of Niels Lundqvist. They've been trying to protect him. The coaching staff does not have a lot of trust in him. But if Yanni Hakanpää is healthy enough to go here in game 1, then they'll have 6 defensemen they can trust. So that, to me, is probably the biggest storyline heading in for the Stars. Is Yanni Hakanpää going to be able to go? He was unable to go into the in the finale against St. Louis. They would have liked to get him into a game before you have to throw him into a Stanley Cup playoff contest. But that's just the nature of it here tonight. So if Yanni Hakanpää is able to go, I think that's a great sign for Dallas. And I don't think Yanni Hakanpää is going to be a huge X factor or huge contributor in any way to this series. But deploying a 5-man decor for 6 games, let alone the first round, if you're trying to do that for multiple series, it's going to take a lot of wear and tear on some of your bigger guys, such as Miro and Thomas Harley, who you're asking to do a lot as it is. If you put that extra level of stress on them in key moments, night in and night out, it's going to be really tough, especially to beat a Vegas team that is very, very deep and what we think is going to be fully healthy here in the first round. So what are your thoughts on Vegas, and what are some big things that maybe you have some questions or concerns about here entering this series?
I'm not concerned about the Golden Knights' health. We know what's going to happen. I mean, I think the rest of the league knows what's going to happen. It's Mark Stone's been on the ice now for roughly a week, and a variety of non-contact jerseys. We have red and like a powder blue jersey. I think powder blue jerseys are the pregame day of skates, non-contacts, and the reds are the whatever, it doesn't matter. The point being is the Golden Knights are going to have better health. Petrangelo's missed, I want to say, like 10 of the last 11 games due to undisclosed. It's COVID stuff. Call it what it is. So we'll see what exactly happens with Pietrangelo, if he's going to be ready to go game 1 Monday night. We talked about Mark Stone. I think he'll be back, and I think the social media is going to go nuclear on the Golden Knights, and maybe rightfully so, but that's fine. Yep. Other players, Chandler Stevenson, he's missed the last couple of games. Seems like he'll be okay. Same with Anthony Mantha. Golden Knights rested Noah Hannafin in the season finale. So, and Will Carrier is back on the ice skating. So that's not my biggest storyline, though. That's not.
Yeah.
We know what's going to happen. I think the storyline for the Golden Knights heading into the playoffs is goaltending.
Yeah.
Aiden Hill set the second highest all-time save percentage of a goalie in the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs last year. Aiden Hill can't stop a beach ball right now in his glove hand. So we'll see if Aiden can get that side of his game figured out. Logan Thompson did not dress in the playoffs last year due to injuries, and the team just deciding not to. The team deciding to keep Jonathan Quick as the backup instead of Aiden Hill. Does Coach Cassidy trust Logan Thompson to go out there in game 1, who has been the better of the 2 goalies in Vegas for the last 3 weeks? Or does he, as Coach Cassidy stated, stick with the loyalty to some players and also the experience?
Yeah. And Aiden Hill was fantastic in that series against Dallas last year. He was fantastic throughout the entirety of the Stanley Cup playoffs. I am curious and would love to ask you, just because Vegas has certainly not coming into the playoffs with phenomenal form, right? That they've stumbled here a bit, but
the whole season.
They find a way to get it done in big moments like they did last year. They weren't really a team I felt like the conversation revolved around, and then they went out and pretty much boat raced everybody. How do you feel coming into the playoffs? Because the Stars are a team that have won 16 out of their last 20. They've been humming a bit. They haven't played the best of opponents, albeit, but they still found a way to win games. Are you concerned about them flipping the switch? I guess maybe you're not, just because you expect them to be fully healthy. But I'm interested, like, just flipping the switch and being ready to go for Stanley Cup playoff time. How do you expect them to kind of come out here early in the series?
Stanley Cup pedigree, vets with Stanley Cup experience. You cannot replicate that. That is certainly going to help the Golden Knights a lot. Is the light going to? This is what the first article I wrote for Inside the Rink about 2 weeks ago was literally, will the light go on? And part of me thinks it will, but part of me is concerned. Like, we've seen pockets of very good play by the Golden Knights over the last 2 weeks. There's been a couple, really good 60-minute performances, but generally speaking, there's been concerns. My co-host Tony Cardasco pointed this out on multiple occasions. The Golden Knights in the third period have been very poor since the All-Star break in giving up nearly 50 goals in the third period alone. Anaheim Ducks get 4 goals or 3 goals in the third period. One's an empty netter, but still 3 goals in the third period in a game that the Golden Knights, I think they needed, but maybe they felt they didn't need it. I don't know. But point being is there used to be Darren Elliott talked about this on the post game last night, one of the commentators, that there used to be this fortress stomp. And the fortress stomp basically is the Golden Knights can either come and get a couple quick goals, and then they just, basically put their foot on the other team's throats, and they have no chance to get back in the game. And that's been missing. But will the light go on? Like, it's very fascinating to see how it's going to play out. And I'm concerned, I'm intrigued, I'm excited. And, like you, I just hope we can enjoy at least more than one round. But the reality is one very good team is going to be going down in, the next week and a half to 2 weeks, depending on how long the series goes. Dallas Stars, I looked this morning, are a slight favorite at -140 to win the series, which is really intriguing because it's a 1 versus 8 seed. It is literally a traditional 1 versus 8. And sports books are telling you it's pretty much a coin flip for which team is going to come out ahead.
Yeah, I really would put it as 50-50. And I'm so intrigued. Dallas having home ice makes me feel a bit better.
Helps a lot.
Yeah, especially when you talk about Game 7. I know recently the home ice numbers don't really bear out an advantage, but I think having Game 7 at home certainly is an advantage because Game 7 is just completely different than Game 1. And I am really, really intrigued. I will say
a lot more fun. Game 7, a lot more fun.
Yes. Yeah. I will say I'm more intrigued because I feel like Dallas is obviously in a much better position to take down the Golden Knights this season. They are much more well-rounded team, especially depth-wise, and maybe it's better to get Vegas in the first round. I know a lot of Stars fans are irritated by it, and a team that's over the cap by, whatever, but hey, I give huge props to the Vegas Golden Knights. They are using it to their advantage, and every GM should follow. I mean, just frankly, they should take advantage of it if you have the ability to do it. And I think it makes for a great series. And yeah, you probably want to get Vegas now while they're trying to so-called turn on the switch rather than, let's say, the second round or Western Conference Finals, because if they win round 1 against Dallas, they are going to be very, very difficult to beat moving forward to against whoever they play. So maybe it's the case where you get them at the right time, and hopefully you can slay the dragon, and hopefully you don't get too much taken out of you for the rounds to come as well, because it may be a really hard physical series. And as you mentioned, I'm pumped for the whole thing. I'm sure you are as well.
General Manager Kelly McCrimmon is playing chess while the other 31 GMs are playing Candyland.
Yeah.
He definitely is finding creative ways to maximize the roster. Now, a fair question, I will agree with every other fan base. Mark Stone, let's just assume it's not a big assumption. It's not going on. Let's just assume Mark Stone plays Game 1. Could Mark Stone have played in Game 82 of the regular season? Let's pretend the Ducks, the Golden Knights needed that game to beat the Anaheim Ducks. And let's also assume that the Golden Knights would have had the salary cap space. They don't. But let's assume they had the salary cap space to activate Mark Stone for Game 82. Could he have trotted out there? He's been practicing for a week. I will agree with every fan base. That's a question that needs to be asked, and a spot where the NHL definitely needs to make sure. I'm not saying the Golden Knights are cheating either. Let's make sure we're not going down that path. But where the NHL needs to have their ducks in a row, so to speak, as far as being clear and transparent that the Golden Knights and every other team are following all of the rules as outlined by the CBA. And also worth reminding that besides, I think, the Tampa Bay Lightning and actually the Dallas Stars GM, he's been vocal about the salary cap situation, and he feels that there should possibly be a percentage or something, like some
Mhm.
changes to the LTIR. So maybe he was
Yeah.
setting it up right there. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, he had to use it to his advantage this year with having Dodonov on the LTIR in order to bring up Logan Stankoven. So the Stars did use it to their advantage too, and most should. And I give huge props to Vegas because he does what a lot of fan bases wish they would do: play a little fantasy GM, try to get everybody you can.
You think the San Jose Sharks or Buffalo Sabres or
Yeah,
all these other teams would not trade the success of what Vegas has had? And sure,
absolutely.
maybe that's a little bit condescending, and maybe that's a little bit out there. I'm not knocking those fan bases at all,
Yeah.
but they're chirping a lot, and they would take 7 years of competitive hockey over what they have right now. Let's be
Mhm.
honest.
Absolutely. No question about that. Well, we just spoke about Mark Stone here recently, so we'll jump into our next segment about some of the key players here in this series. And Chris, I want to get your thoughts on. I did a top 10 players in the series for my Friday episode, so I'd love to hear your thoughts. Maybe if you have some pushback on my list, and we'll do
Let's
that
go.
in just a moment. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA. It's playoff time in the NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. You can bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. Why not get in on the action while you're enjoying the Stanley Cup playoffs this season? Go ahead and make you some extra dough while you're enjoying the first round, even while you're enjoying the first round of the NBA playoffs. All you Stars fans, I'm sure you want to sprinkle some money on the Dallas Mavericks as well in their first round matchup against the Los Angeles Clippers. You name it, FanDuel has it. Go ahead and make some money this postseason. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Alrighty, here we go. We're going to jump into some of the best players, or maybe key players, in this series between the Dallas Stars and Vegas Golden Knights. So I'll go ahead and give you my top 5, Chris. A list of the best players in the series. It ended up being 5 for Dallas and 5 for Vegas in my top 10. I thought it was very even, but would love to hear your thoughts on my top 5. So my number 1, I went with Miro Heiskanen. 2, I got Jack Eichel. 3, I got Rope. 4, I got Jason Robertson. And 5, I got Marchessault. And maybe I'm putting Marchessault a bit too far down the list because he's a Stars killer. And I think he is a very, very key player in this series, and probably the one I'm most intrigued about. But that is my top 5 for best players in this series. Would love to hear your thoughts, or maybe a sleeper pick for the Golden Knights, because it felt like last season it was the depth, the fourth line, that did a lot of damage, which kind of did the Stars in last year.
No arguments on the top 5. I mean, it's
Mhm.
splitting hairs maybe with a couple of those spots right there.
Mhm.
Robo's going to obviously do what he's going to do, and Marchessault hopefully he's going to do what he's going to do. And Eichel
Mhm.
has certainly emerged big time. Like Eichel, we saw glimpses in Vegas last year of the
Mhm.
200-foot version of Jack Eichel, and it's gone to a completely new level this season. So Eichel's going to be a big difference maker out there. Definitely someone to keep an eye on. Noah Hannafin. What a
Yes.
pickup, obviously, at the trade deadline by Kelly McCrimmon. Again,
Mhm.
utilizing the available tools, if you will, of the situation to rope in who's going to be someone leading the defensive core for a long time to come. And Tomas Hertl, fun as always. My Vegas friends will understand that right there. But
Mhm.
Tomas Hertl, he is, first of all, he's a face-off machine. Dude wins
Mhm.
every offensive zone face-off, and he's what the Golden Knights have been missing as far as that net front presence on the power play. He just plants his butt right there, and kind of
Mhm.
like Pavelski, right? Pavelski
Yeah.
doesn't really get right in front of the goalie. He's maybe a few feet out going for that tip, where Hurdle is setting the screen. And they're both really good at what they do. They just both do it a little bit differently. I think the number one player that I want to keep an eye on, I think the most important player might be Jamie Benn. It might be Jamie Benn in this series. And I mean this jokingly, and I also mean this seriously. The Golden Knights, when Jamie Benn was out of the lineup, lost 2 games last season in the playoffs. Stars had their backs against the wall. It's very hard to eliminate a team. I don't care what the circumstances are. That plays in a little bit, but I think Jamie Benn is going to take this series to a new level. I'll predict right now for Dallas Stars fans, this is going to be Jamie Benn's best playoff series of his entire career.
I love to hear that. I love to hear that. And multiple times I've said it throughout the last month. I just feel like Jamie Benn will not allow this team to lose. I just feel like he has that type of mindset heading into this series. I am going to will this team. I am going to drag this team as far
has to keep his head.
as I possibly
has to keep
can.
his head, and he can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And along with his line mate Wyatt Johnston, which is somebody I would be remiss to not mention, just such a young stud in the National Hockey League. And if you went back to the 2021 NHL draft, you'd probably want to pick him at number 1.
No doubt.
Some serious consideration.
No doubt. He's number 1. Slavkovsky's really good. Shane Wright, is starting to come along, but that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, he's been so elite. Him and Ben and Stankoven in general have been the best line for the Dallas Stars over the last month, and that's their third trio. that just shows that they can flex some of that depth. I also have Mark Stone in the top 10. He's such a good player. He's so underrated. And you mentioned Eichel's ability to play a 200-foot game now. Well, Mark Stone kind of came into the league being able to do that, and I love his style of play. He is a pest. You hate that he's not on your team because he's just so responsible. He understands where to be, and he can score too. He can light the lamp. So Mark Stone, I feel like, is a really, really key factor, because I feel like too Vegas is going to be a different team with him in the lineup. He's their captain. He's their leader. I think he just changes the mojo a bit. Like, we got him back. Here we go. Like, try to beat us now.
Mark Stone can do everything that Jamie Benn can do as far as willing the team to victory, not allowing the team to lose. The intensity level of Mark Stone is just out. It's the dude doesn't take a shift off, nor does he take a post-game interview question off. He is very serious. I don't think he knows how to crack a joke in a post-game media scrum. I've tried to crack him a couple times. I just wanted to piss him off both times, but he's a joy to talk to. He gives a very honest assessment of the team anytime a microphone is in front of him. And if you need to understand what the pulse of the Golden Knights was throughout the regular season, when they send Mark Stone out, he's going to give it to you. He's going to tell you if it's going well. He's going to tell you if it's not going well. And Mark Stone was very quick, especially early in the season when the Golden Knights had tons of, felt like the Golden Knights were going to run the table again the way the season started for the first, 45 or so days. And obviously injuries came, and here we are, the 8th seed coming into the playoffs. But Mark Stone was very quick to point out the flaws of the team, even when they were off to like a 9-1 start or whatever it was. And, we're just not there yet. We're winning game. We're finding ways to win games. You mentioned that earlier on, and a lot of stuff like that. So Stone being back on the bench, being around the team on the ice, it's going to bring the team to a new level. And if this does wind up being captain versus captain, as far as which one's going to be the better leader and who's going to, will their team to victory, it'll be a very great storyline to keep an eye on. I'm not going to say which one is better or anything, because they're both great at what they do. And I think the better captain will prevail after the series is over.
Absolutely. And it just feels like both of those guys give their team such a jolt, inside the locker room, outside the locker room, on the ice, you name it. They really do it all. And you mentioned kind of the captain versus captain battle. I am intrigued about Noah Hanifin versus Chris Tanev, so to speak, just the former Flames. And I think Tanev
I didn't think about that. I like that.
Yeah, he was a phenomenal pickup for Dallas. Probably the second best trade deadline deal I would give Jake Install to Carolina some love. He's been great in Carolina, but Tanev has not only improved his game as a Dallas Star, mainly because the Stars are just a better club than Calgary, but he's improved the defense as a whole. Whoever he plays with, it seems like they get a bump up. If you look at all the analytics and some of those numbers, the Stars as a whole, post All-Star break, have been really, really tidy defensively. They crept into the top 10 at the end of the year in terms of goals against. They hovered around middle of the pack for the majority of the year. And then over the last month or so, they get Tanev into the lineup. It gives them some more depth on the back end. It also allowed Pete DeBoer to deploy his pairings in a multitude of ways. You see Chris Tanev a lot with Esa Lindell, but you also see Tanev with Harley. You see Tanev with Miro. We've seen kind of anybody play with anybody over the last recent weeks, which I think can be really intriguing, because if you're going to give some of the tougher matchups to Miro and Harley, you need that depth on the back end to face the bottom six for Vegas, because they're going to be so physical. So Hanifin and Tanev is another kind of storyline intertwined, the former teammates going at it, and maybe who can provide the biggest boost here in the series, because the reason that Vegas and the Stars went out and got these guys was for this time. It wasn't really the regular season. It was Stanley Cup playoff time. So I think that could be a real cool storyline too.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that right now the Stars are basically going with five defensemen, just kind of rotating, 5 players through and such. Where would the Stars have been without Chris Tanev? They'd be running 4 people out, or 2 or an inexperienced pair, or something like that. So that's the fun, watching the GMs do their thing and set these teams up for success. And back to Kelly McCrimmon, it's not just about like 2 of the 3 players that the Golden Knights got at the trade deadline. They're not simply deadline rental acquisitions. Mantha appears like that could be the path, but you never know what the Golden Knights. I think the Golden Knights are hoping they found last year's playoff version of Ivan Barbashev and Anthony Mantha. Someone's going to go out there and get nearly a point per game and just be an offensive machine. But Hertl and Hanifin both are locked up for 5, 6, 7 more seasons. 8 years now for
8 years.
For Noah Hanifin, and I think Hertl through 29-30 or something like that. So
wow. Yeah.
I don't know how McCrimmon does it, but he does it, and it's just so much fun to watch. It really is. I know people are going to go back to the LTIR and stuff, and fine, I'm cool with that. I get it. I'm not arguing with you, but it is fun watching, fanboying, covering the Vegas Golden Knights, and going to games with my kid, or working the media side. It's just fun because there's nothing dull about it. There's really is.
Yeah, they have plenty of time in the summer to figure out their cap situation. They figure that out. You got all.
That's a full-time job. That's a full-time job, and there's probably an entire level at Bellagio dedicated to the Vegas Golden Knights figuring out the salary cap. There's like 100 people that work in that department. They're working tirelessly. Yeah, definitely. A lot of future GMs working in that office right now.
Oh, I bet. I bet. Oh, man. I would love Chris Tanev to stick around a little longer, too. You mentioned Hanifin inked his deal. I think a lot of Stars fans would co-sign that. So maybe Tanev will stick around for at least a
good team. What are they doing dumping all these guys, Mark? Or, I mean,
interesting.
Vancouver got someone. Tanev, Vegas got, Calgary could have been great.
Yeah, the Flames just want to help out their Western Conference foes, I guess. They want to help them out. So we will not stop them from doing that. That's for sure. All righty. We talked about some of the best players, we talked about the storylines. I think it's time to kind of get into our official predictions, maybe some X factors, specific stats you're looking at that could be key in this series. So when we come back, we will drop our official predictions. Dallas Stars versus Vegas Golden Knights. It's the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Vegan Golden Knights, bunch of vegans, huh? What are you calling us?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, no, nothing wrong with that. Maybe that'll help them here in round 1, taking on the meat eaters. Down here in Dallas, there's nothing but barbecue. All righty, we'll do official predictions in just a moment. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is obsessed with finding you ways to save money on tickets and find the seats that are right for you. We've all been there before. We go to a new arena, we go to a new ballpark, you get your tickets, you get your seats, and then all of a sudden, there's a railing, there's a piece of glass, there's some sort of obstruction. I would have not bought these if I had known that. And Gametime takes all that pressure away. You can see the seats before you buy, so you know exactly what you're going to get. And it also shows all of your total up front. No surprise fees at checkout. We know how important that is as sports fans. And you want to go to game 3 of Stars versus Golden Knights. You want to go to a Texas Rangers game. You want to go see that band you've always wanted to see in concert. Gametime has it for you. You can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sporting events, concerts, comedy, theater, you name it. They have it. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Alrighty, it is time, Chris. Here we go. We have to give our official predictions. Maybe not right away. Maybe we can jump into some of the key stats you're looking forward to between this series. But this is what everybody came for. Who is going to win round 1 between the Dallas Stars and Vegas Golden Knights? A lot of intriguing stuff in this series. I will throw out there that I think Jake Ottinger can be the X factor in this series because he was hurt last year in the
he
run.
Was definitely hurt in the conference final. There's no doubt in my mind he was hurt.
Absolutely not. You're completely right on that note. And he has been super good here down the stretch. I want to say he's 9-1 in his last 10. He's kind of crept into like top 5 in save percentage, top 10 in goals against here in the last month and a half or so, which really was honestly, the lone question mark besides the defense, the lone question mark for Stars, like, are you going to get a consistent Jake Ottinger? Because as you know, you can't do anything without a goaltender. It's a great equalizer because if the defense breaks down, he can clean up a lot of mistakes. And Jake Ottinger,
he can win 2-1 games. He can win 2-1 games.
Absolutely. He can win games like he did against Minnesota, like he did against Seattle sometimes. So if Jake Ottinger plays really well, just above average or at least elite, I have a hard time believing Vegas can take down the Stars. And then that's just because goaltending just seems to triumph all.
I mean, my favorite quote that's starting to get some notoriety, at least in Edmonton. We'll talk about that in another story for another time. But give me the best goaltender and give me the best coach in the series, and then I'll start my handicapping as to who I think is going to win the series from there. Ottinger is definitely the best goaltender coming in as far as form goes. Can Aiden Hill or Logan Thompson go save for save against him? I think they can, but coming into the playoffs, Ottinger is definitely the best goalie. No questions asked. Pete DeBoer, Vegas, we know Pete DeBoer pretty well, and the National Hockey League also knows Pete DeBoer very well.
Yes.
My perspective on DeBoer, and this is my X factor, stats and stuff. It's a new season. I don't care about stats.
Yes.
Stats are relevant now. But the X factor for me of this series is Pete DeBoer. Pete DeBoer versus Bruce Cassidy. And a lot of people in Vegas will dub DeBoer as DeBoring. A great guy, super classy. But as a coach, my concerns about DeBoer when he was coaching the Golden Knights and now coaching the Dallas Stars is DeBoer is great in the regular season. DeBoer is also really good in early playoff rounds. We've seen that throughout his career, which is a concern for the Golden Knights right now. Does DeBoer have enough in him to win a Stanley Cup? He's had some talented teams, and he's got a really talented team this year. Can DeBoer make the adjustments? Can DeBoer make the big move? We saw so many times in Vegas where, and this is the playoff bubble year when the Golden Knights win 7 games against the Vancouver Canucks. 3-1 lead in the series. And the Golden Knights were just content putting up shots from everywhere around the perimeter and just basically getting scuff marks all over Thatcher Demko's nice crest on his jersey, because that's where they were shooting everything. But they kept shooting. They eventually won the series 4-3, thankfully. But my point is, DeBoer didn't make any adjustments. He just stuck to it. And was happy with the Golden Knights getting 35, 40, 45 shots a game that maybe 2 of them were high danger chances. So can DeBoer make the big adjustment on the defense? Move Tanev around, move Heiskanen around. Can he find a way to get Robertson away from William Karlsson, or plays like that? Can he lead Jamie Benn down the right path to keep him, in the right frame of mind? He lost his mind last year in the playoffs, call it what it is. So that, I think, for me, I think the better coach is going to prevail. And on that side of it, Coach Cassidy does get the check mark. He's got a Stanley Cup. He's got a Stanley Cup. End of story. That conversation ends right there. Now, DeBoer could get a Stanley Cup this year. And then if the Stars and Golden Knights meet next year, we'll find different hairs to split.
Yeah, that's a great point. I love the sentiment. It's kind of like the National Football League. I'll take coach and I'll take better quarterback every single time. And I think there are some parallels with your netminder and coach. And I think you're completely right about Pete DeBoer in a lot of ways, where he can be stubborn in the way he wants to play. Sometimes he wants to roll 4 lines. He wants to just keep rolling and continuing
it's all
to do
work in the end, right?
Yeah.
Happy-go-lucky DeBoer. Happy-go-lucky DeBoer.
But I will give him some grace on that this season, because he showed a lot of willingness to switch things up at multiple times throughout this season. When things weren't going well, he did switch up the trios. He put Robo with Ben and Johnston at one point. He put Rope, Robertson, and Johnston. He did try to switch some things around. He did try to at least produce some offense, or at least light a fire in the lineup. So I will show him some grace there. Will it happen come playoff time? I don't know, because, about a month ago, or not too long ago, he mentioned that he's sticking with that top line. Like he's going to let them work it out with of course, Rope, Robertson, and Pavelski. And I mean, rightfully so, for a lot of reasons. They were one of the best lines in hockey the last few seasons. It hasn't been that this year, but they do take on a lot of tough matchups. They have gone through some bumps in the road, but they still produce. I mean, you're talking about a 39-year-old Joe Pavelski that is the second leading scorer on the Stars. I don't know how he does it.
I love it.
I don't know how he does it. So he just figures out a way to do it. And he's so fantastic. And you mentioned him in Hurdle. I think Hurdle probably picked up a thing or two from Joe during this time.
We didn't even talk about that storyline.
Yeah.
Jeez, wow.
Yeah.
Hurdle and Pavelski against each other. Oh, it's man.
Yeah, the 2 power plays sitting in front. Who's going to have the most deflection goals?
They probably got some money on the board, or maybe a case of beer on the table for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Pavelski is doing the same thing with young Stars players. He's such a great leader too. I mean, you can make the argument Dallas has 3 captains, along with Suter and Pavelski and Benn. At one point, they're all captains in previous stops, which is pretty remarkable. Alrighty. Okay, it's time for the official predictions. I'll kick us off here. I like the revenge factor for the Dallas Stars. We've had such a great year. I have to ride with them in the first round. I can't bail on them now, even if it is the scary Vegas Golden Knights, who the Stars did not want to face in the first round. I think they get the revenge. I'll take Dallas in 6. I got Dallas in 6. I think it's going to be a good series. Maybe they close it out in Vegas. So maybe they do it in their building too, just to add a little, put a little salt in the wound.
I'm with you in 6, but I mean, I'm going to take Vegas. Coach Cassidy, I think, is going to be the X factor, as it says on the list over there. The light has to go on. I mean, that's what the narrative is, right? That's what our state-run media has been telling us all down up here in Vegas. You're down, I'm up. All up here in Vegas and stuff. So, it's a new season, all the narratives, everything we've been spoon-fed all season. So we're going to see if the Golden Knights as an organization are going to put their money where their mouth is. And if they do, if the light does go on, it's Vegas in 6, maybe less, but I don't think it's going to be less. It's not taking anything away from the Dallas Stars. And I think there's a very reasonable chance not only does the Western Conference representative in the Stanley Cup final emerge from this series, but a very good chance that the Stanley Cup winner emerges from this series. And that's a credit to both teams, what they've accomplished. And it's going to be a great series. I mean, 7 games would be a lot of fun, but if it goes in 6, I think that's a better chance for the Golden Knights to win the series. If it goes 7, it's a better chance for the Stars to win the series.
Yeah, the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs is always a
Mayhem.
treat, and I think the National Hockey League has to be thrilled that these two teams are facing off
Why is it starting
in
on
the
Monday? Is there something going on in the arena? Mavericks in a concert or something?
no, it is Monday night. Monday
Right, but
night.
why is it waiting until Monday though? Why not
Uh,
Saturday? Is there
yeah.
something with the arena?
Yeah, I want to say the Clippers and Mavs play Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're playing on Sunday.
That benefits the
Yeah.
Golden Knights with the injuries and everything big
Yeah.
time.
Yeah,
Big
yeah.
time.
So, yeah, game 1 underway tonight, 9:30 Eastern time, I wanna say is the scheduled time. A lot of late nights once again in this series. The start times are tough
Perfect.
for
Prime
our
time for
central.
us.
Yeah, yeah, it's tough for us, central time zone, fans having to stay up
You
late,
look
but we'll
young. Is
be
it a school
capping
night
it.
for you or something, bro? I mean, you can stay
Yeah,
up,
yeah.
right? You gotta ask your parents to stay up later or what, man? Come
Yeah,
on, you're
hey,
good.
man, I graduated a few years ago. I'm all good, man. My nights are free. It's open, so
Let's
nothing
go.
to complain about. Alrighty, well, Chris, it was a pleasure to talk with you, man.
Yeah, very
Appreciate
good meeting
you.
you, Joey. That was fun,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, it was a pleasure hopping on with you and talking this series. Yeah, I think we're both pumped. So it should be a great one. Make sure to tune in. Game 1 tonight, Dallas Stars versus Vegas Golden Knights should be a thrilling series, and maybe we'll catch up as the series goes along too. Well, thank you once again, Chris. Good luck the rest of the way, and that'll do it for our official Dallas Stars versus Vegas Golden Knights Stanley Cup playoff preview. Be sure to subscribe to Locked On Stars. Be sure to subscribe to Locked On Golden Knights as well. Hit that subscribe button. Never miss an episode. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Be sure to comment your predictions in the comment section below. Would love to see what everybody's feeling like as well. Should be a fantastic series. Alrighty, well, that's enough of me rambling. Chris, thank you once again. That'll do it for this special crossover edition. Until next time, we'll see you again. So long, everybody.